Thanks, James. All right, let's bring in Fox News contributor and retired NYPD inspector and attorney Paul Mauro. 300 days in from when Charlie Kirk's life was taken from him. And we heard a lot in that courtroom just now. Paul, what were your takeaways?
So let's try to go to a couple of places we haven't talked about. We're all very frustrated with how long this process is going. I think most of the commentators, if not all, agree that we are well over the hump for probable cause. Let's recognize what that means. Probable cause is the same standard under which police make an arrest. That just means we probably got the right guy. Some people put a percentage on it. We don't need to bother with that. This is not beyond a reasonable doubt. This is not the trial. That's later. This is did the cops do the right thing? That's really all this hearing is. Other systems in other states, they use indictment to double tap it. It's just a safeguard. So in light of that construct, you have to say to yourself, Judge Graff, do we not have enough at this point to move forward? As they say in New York, you can indict a ham sandwich. This is the replacement for an indictment process. And the feeling, I think, among a lot of us is why? Why is he letting them have so much latitude, particularly to the defense? Because what it does is gives the defense a preview of the prosecution's case.
And we got a preview of that, and it looks, I mean, incontrovertible, just from the text messages alone. That if you're a defense attorney, how do you defend against that? And in terms of it being bound over for trial, I think that I don't think that anybody's got an argument that there's, maybe the defense does, but I don't think most people would have an argument that there's plenty of evidence here to bind it over for trial. But do you think that this will go to trial? Do you think that this is just Tyler Robinson's defense team, led by Catherine Nestor, saying they got so much on you, including a confession from you, which is backed up by your lover? This ain't going anywhere except potentially that if you lose at trial, you could lose your life. Let's cut a deal with the prosecution here, take the death penalty off the table. You'll spend the rest of your life in jail, but at least you'll be alive. Do you think it could be heading in that direction?
So I'm going to refer back to the Koberger case because the public is familiar with it. That case, I actually came out and said early, I could see a plea deal here because of various, we don't need to relitigate that. And, I got shouted down a little bit. Turned out I actually called that one right. I'm going to go the other way on this one. From having been out there, John, seen some of the atmospherics, and this is just my gut, but also how voluminous the evidence is. No, I think this one goes to trial. I don't think remember, the prosecution controls that. And unless there's some procedural problem, somebody really dropped the ball, they don't want to have to deal with it in court, the motion comes in, they have their backs to the wall, all right, let's cut the deal, we'll talk to the defense. Short of that, I just don't get the feeling that the prosecution is going to offer a deal. I think that they feel like they have, as James Galliano said, an open and shut case. And let's remember something. There's stuff we haven't even heard. Yeah. For instance, we know he turned himself in. And we know that the sheriff he turned himself into in Washington County had a warning that he was on the way in. If you're that sheriff, you do two things. You turn on a body-worn camera, and you don't take him into custody, you just ask a simple question. What are you doing here? That's all you got to do. One question, it's not custodial, you don't need any Miranda. It's human nature. You're going to say, why are you here? The kid's going to say something, and I suspect it'll be very incriminating. Did that happen? I don't know that. But I'd like to think there is some, I know there's at least audio from what I'm being told. There could be something that's even more of a slam dunk than what we got now. I hope it doesn't come out in the hearing. We shouldn't hear it here. We should hear it at trial. So no, if I'm sitting there right now, if I'm sitting where the prosecution is, I go all the way with this thing.
Wow, just a little bit of color coming from the courtroom as they are now in a lunch break. But shortly before that ended, we did hear about the reaction from Tyler Robinson as the Twigs video, his former roommate and lover, we are told, played out. He was intently watching. Paul, that's about all I have.
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to say to yourself here, what were his, and I don't want to play psychoanalyst, but you can see in the text messages, et cetera, there was a performative element of this. He texts Twigs, talks to him about it. There's a level of grandiosity here, almost like fulfilling a fantasy. And that's how very often crimes do occur. We had a good Utah investigator, a guy named Mike King, on, and he explained to us on the weekly rap sheet, we're doing a show on this every night, 7 o'clock live on this case. And we talked about the fact that these things they germinate in the mind of a perp like this, is a sort of a fantasy, and little by little it becomes normalized. It becomes something you can do, and I think he saw himself as a hero, and I think he saw himself as a hero to Lance Twiggs. I get that atmospheric. Again, it's just a cop's read. Now, look, he's innocent until proven guilty. I have to caveat us that way. But that said, with all of these atmospherics, that's my read on it.
Can I just follow up on that? Is there any sort of risk then that, you know, the defense could make the case that Tyler Robinson, you know, wanted to take ownership of this, of Charlie Kirk's death and shooting, but didn't actually do it, but presented it to his roommate? I'm just thinking of where the defense could go in a trial with this.
Yeah, no, and that dovetails on the question that John raised earlier, which is, you know, couldn't they say it was somebody else texting with him, et cetera? And that's where the fact that you got the Celebrite download from the phone, you got the DNA, you're going to be able to put that. And remember, we got the note as well under Robinson's keyboard. They're going to put that phone in Robinson's hand, as well as the gun's got the DNA, the towel's got the DNA. All of these things, he talks about engraving, remember the shells?
Yep.
All right, and those shells were found with those engraved. All of that stuff is going to put it in Tyler Robinson's hand. I think that's going to be a blind alley for them if they try to go that way, or they try this idea that there's this second shooter that popped out from someplace. There's no indicia of that. Can they raise a counter narrative? Sure they can, but you have to have some evidence. Otherwise, the judge should say, we're not entertaining that. So you can't just conjure a counter narrative out of thin air. You have to have something to support it. And let's remember something else, and I'm going to use the term that was said to me when I was out there. They have Twiggs, quote unquote, right where we want him. All right, I was asking physically, where is he? All right, he's not in witness protection. It's not that kind of thing. You do with something like this, you got a key witness, you keep him out of the public's eye, you keep him away from the media. Generally, you know, you use a motel or something. I don't want to go into it. But the bottom line is, this guy is the most crucial witness that they have. And yet,
clearly,
he's the romantic partner, so they need a lever. So what's the lever that they have? I can guarantee you, they said to him, you're implicated. Did you destroy evidence? Did you do this? Did you do that? And, you know, they probably scared him, rightly so. He starts talking. It's recorded. You make sure you do that. That's how this went.
Wow.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question about that in a second, but for those of you who aren't intently watching the screen, a little more color from inside the courtroom. And Paul, you mentioned the engraving of the bullets. Apparently, while he was watching intently as the Lance Twiggs interview was being played out in the courtroom, Tyler Robinson became visibly uncomfortable and started squirming in his seat when he was talking about engraving the bullets. Now, just to refresh folks at home's memory, and maybe for folks who didn't see that part of the interview being played out, Lance Twiggs talked about Tyler Robinson saying that he wanted to engrave bullet casings.
Yeah.
Didn't say why or what he was going to engrave on it. Lance Twiggs said, well, we've got a Dremel if you want to borrow that. Anybody who is not familiar, a Dremel is sometimes it's used for crafts, sometimes it's used for you know, as a tool, basically, if you're trying to do something with metal, cut it or polish it or engrave it. It's a little handheld device where it's got a little rotating bit on the end of it. You can engrave things with it, you can polish, you can sand with it. The fact that he talked at length about, and in great detail, about Tyler Robinson wanting to borrow that Dremel. Lance Twiggs said, I won't get it for you, but I'll tell you where it is. And apparently, Tyler Robinson went to wherever it was and picked that up. He was quite uncomfortable, according to observers in the court, when that testimony was being read out.
Yeah, unsurprising, right? I mean, it probably had the atmospheric of somebody getting caught bragging, because here he is, you know, sort of talking to Twiggs about that. This is obviously very damning evidence. But again, I go back to the idea that I think he's beginning to feel, first of all, obviously the case is closing in on him here. But I think, again, he wanted to think of himself as a hero. I think to the people that are potentially politically aligned with him, but also to Twiggs. And here he is having a conversation, a fairly private conversation, let's say, with his paramour. And here it is now being read out in open court. So, and let's remember something else. It's a callback to the Mangione case, where we saw a similar technique. So all of these things are very damning. And let's remember also, he puts the gun in his own hands. He starts telling Twiggs about, you know, what am I going to do about Grandpa's gun? Dad's going to be all over me to get Grandpa's gun. It's wrapped up in a towel in the woods. I got to get back there to get it. Well, the police found it. And of course, it has both his DNA and Twiggs' DNA on it. So again, you know, I just got to go back to the weight of the evidence. And if I'm sitting where the prosecution is, I do not let myself get distracted. I go all the way on this. If you don't take this case all the way on aggravated murder, I don't know what Utah has the statute for.
Wow. There's a lot to dig into there. You know, as this continues, I mean, you have to imagine these families are all in the courtroom. They're all taking this in together. They're all probably watching Tyler Robinson, his reactions. To John's point, we just got some color in the courtroom that he was squirming when his former roommate was, you know, talking about the engravings on the bullets. I don't know, Paul, it just seems like for the American public watching this, I mean, there's just an overwhelming amount of evidence here.
And this is one of those things where the public gets to see how the sausage is made in our justice system, and sometimes it's not that pretty. I can assure people, without such a public forum and without people sort of playing not only to the cameras, but I think to the record, how this is going to be perceived going forward, it's normally not so laborious. This is the kind of hearing that should have taken place in a half a day. It's got a lot of evidence. Okay, I'll give it a day. Frankly, from where I sit, at some point here, the judge should say to them, bring them in and say, okay, guys, we've had a week. Tomorrow, I'm going to call it, and I'm going to tell you something else. Be ready for an arraignment if I decide that way. If not, then no arraignment. But defense, we're going to do the arraignment forthwith to move this thing along. I can guarantee you he's not going to do that, but he should, because we're at that point.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, Judge Graff has done so many things to give the defense so much leeway. I doubt that he would say, let's get to an arraignment this afternoon. I need a plea. But we'll see. You know, maybe he could surprise us. Paul, stand by with us if you would. Let's bring in Fox News.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.